Hey, this is Zac.
And I'm Clint, and we wanted to thank Exo-terra for sponsoring this episode of Colubrid and Colubroid Radio.
Exo-terra is the industry leader in glass terrarium enclosures, and we are a big fan of getting to see the species we work with both at home and at the university.
We utilize Exo-terra caging here at Metazotics, and in addition to top quality terrariums, Exo-terra offers an array of heating options, lighting, supplements, decor, and truthfully anything needed or wanted when keeping reptiles.
Thank you, Exo-terra, for supporting Colubrid and Colubroid Radio.
Howdy, how everyone. Welcome to another episode of Colubrid and Colubroid Radio. As always, Zac here with Clint. How's it going, man?
Going fantastic, buddy. How you doing?
I'm tired, but I'm well. It's a good tired. So just so everybody listening knows, I just flew in from a week in Arizona. I had a conference out there, had nothing to do with snakes, actually. The conference was an invertebrate education conference. It was at the exact same time as the Biology of Pit Vipers conference, so everybody made the assumption I was at that meeting. And I was messaging people, no, I'm at this meeting, which is fine. But my meeting was in Tucson. Theirs was in Rodeo. But I was supposed to be in my bed going to sleep at 11, and I got to my bed due to delays of the airplane and everything at about 4. Then I got up early this morning, and so I'm going on about 2.5 hours of sleep and a bit of jet lag. So yeah, and I'll talk more about the trip here in a minute. So that's how I am. How are you?
Tired. That's I don't know if we're just never tired.
No, there's always a background exhaustion.
Yes, I think that just comes with 40s.
Yes,
you know?
It comes with 40s, but it's weird. I was telling the people I was on my trip with, because they were like, I'm the oldest of everybody on this trip. And we had an ornithologist with us in Arizona. He's not a birder. He's an ornithologist. Because, and I don't want to get into this because we probably have listeners that are birders, but he basically was like, I don't claim their way of doing things. He basically birds the way that most herpers herp, and therefore he did not want the label of birder. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I learned something on this trip. Herping into the wee hours of the morning and then getting your old ass up to be up when the sun comes up and then hiking around in 100-degree heat. It's fun. It's exciting. It's also a pretty good way to kill yourself in 5 days. So yeah, when the temperatures were conducive for life, because that's the fun thing about the desert, it's that 10 to 6 in the afternoon. Yeah, F that crap. But if it was crepuscular nighttime, we were out doing stuff and found a lot of really cool stuff. But nice. But I went from that and then thought, all right, I'm going to rest up. And then our plane got delayed. And then I had a meeting early in the morning today that I couldn't miss because it was a potential donor. But the thing is, I think we doers, this is like a Red Bull in a really weird way. Like if we don't have that background exhaustion because we're doing stuff, we don't do well. And that's when we get twitchy. Like I get super twitchy. And when I am relaxed, I'm probably not happy.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
No, I completely get it. You know, for me, it's like I cannot sit still unless I hit my recliner.
Yeah.
When I hit my recliner at home, I'm done. Now it's reset time, and I'm done. No, I don't plan on moving until I'm going to sleep. Yes. But I'm going to start my sleep here first. Yeah. It's like my pre-bed nap. You know, That's right.
Yes. No. So, very cool. Well, maybe we should not talk about being in our 40s and talk about
that's right. Yeah, let's move to that. So, I'll tell you. I mean, some of the things that we've had going on out here. Whenever I say we're deep into hatchling season, oh my Lord, Zac, I feel bad at this point. Every time I walk around the corner into the nursery carrying another 5 stacks of clutches that have hatched out that I just pulled from the incubator, and I just see Corey looking at me like, really? This poor girl, there's just so many, and it comes in such waves, you know, right now. It's not, a clutch a day. No, it's like 4 or 5 clutches a day. And but it's filling up quick. And then we just had a boa drop this weekend.
Nice.
And 44 babies.
Oh.
And so, and I take a picture of all these babies in this big tub, and I send it to the group text that we have with the team. And, you see all the team members, oh, that's awesome. Sweet, cool. And then Corey, how many are in there?
Yep.
So it was, that's funny, but some really cool stuff. And, I'm going to pop up a couple pictures because I'll tell you, I'll end up talking about this in the market update in a minute. I want to talk about black rat snakes. So we've had a lot of black rat snakes hatching, and which is cool. Obviously, everyone knows that's one of the species that's very near and dear to my heart.
Yeah.
We probably have the largest collection of black rat snakes, and I say we as in Metazotics as well as Matt Most, because we have a lot of joint projects in this together. And we probably have the largest collection of morphs of black rats in the US. It'd be more than likely. And really, I can only think of one person who may even rival us out of the States, and that's Iman. And even if he doesn't have as many, he's got some killer animals. So, shout out to him. But so we've had some very interesting things happen this year. One, for 2 years in a row now, we have bred, and this was different animals, hypo to chocolate, and have gotten visual animals. So that's telling us that these are either chocolate is like a form of hypo, or they're allelic, and one or the other, something's going on there. Even though an adult chocolate and adult hypo look completely different, we've got something going on, and that's really neat. So we had that, and then I'm going to pop this up here because I thought that this, you just get surprises sometimes, and that's always fun. And one of the surprises that we got was this.
Whoa.
And so what this was a hypo lavender to hypo lavender pairing. And for those that don't know, hypo lavender produces a very pinkish purple black rat snake as an adult. And that's what you're going to see these four here are. But this little guy, I saw that pop out, and I'm like, well, what the hell do we have here? And these are all hypos, so they're going to have, that the lighter eye, the lighter pupil, but this one was hardcore red. And so this is an A-male. It's an albino hypo lavender. So we've got a triple recessive animal here. And so I'm like, that's cool. It may end up just, a hypo lavender is such a gorgeous looking animal in the first place that I don't know if albino is going to help that. You know what I mean? I think if anything, it might take away from it, but it's cool to have this triple recessive, animal. So I posted about that. And here's what's funny about having as many animals as we have now and producing so many different things. I posted this and said, what it was. And I said, that, I think it might be the first one out there. Big, if someone else has produced it, I'm not aware of it. And then I get a message from Matt last night that says, we have one of those. I go, what? And apparently, we produced one like 2 years ago. And he's like, I actually paired it with something for us this year. It's, so I'm like, oh, well, okay. Well, now we got two. So I just thought that was pretty neat. So we've got this triple recessive, but I also wanted to show another picture for everybody because I think that this goes to, it's a clutch that I have two pairs of these, and this is probably the fourth or fifth year that we've bred these together, and it's always one of my favorite clutches to watch hatch out. And I want to show you why here.
Clint is clicking buttons for
clicking buttons. Okay, so so what we have here,
a lot of colors in here if you're in your car.
And that's what's so neat. So what this is, we have a triple het by triple het pairing. And the triple het is both the mother and father is het calico, Het Hypo, and Het Lavender.
Nice.
And so we get a whole mix, in this clutch. And it's really neat because in this one clutch, we have some normal looking baby black rat snakes. That's what we see right here.
Mm-hmm.
This guy right here is a lavender, which is one of the very few. It's a single recessive gene, but you can rarely find it. It's not common out there, and it's not because it's new. It's funny that you can find the hypo lavender more often than you can find the lavender in anyone's collections. But that's what that is a lavender. So there's two. Then we have over here, this guy is a hypo lavender. And so you're going to see a little bit more of that washed out, grayish purple. Then we've got a few hypos. That's what we see up here. And you can see the two tones in the hypo. And that's just going to be kind of that natural variance that we see. So we got 4 colorations there. And without being able to see their eyes, it's a little harder to point this out, but you've got calicos.
Jesus.
Calicos down here. You've got hypo calicos and a lavender calico. And I believe I'd have to double check. We may have, because I can certainly tell when it's a hypo calico because of the eyes, but a hypo lavender calico, I usually need it to shed a couple times before I can start seeing the color and know if it's got all 3 genes, at the same time. But it's just a really fun clutch to see because you don't know what you're going to get. And then all these babies are 66% het, everything else. So looking forward to whenever I'll be able to just check that with RGI and, when they have these genes mapped out. But it's another fun one. So, I figured I just wanted to share some of those pictures. I also, and I'll say this before I get messages, because I know that I will about the next one. I don't have the pictures, but I'll post pictures soon. We have a clutch of visual brindle black rat snakes. And that particular mutation, it has been around for ages. I remember having brindled black rat snakes when I was, I think, 14 years old, 15. But now getting your hands on them is so hard. It is so hard to find anyone producing them. We had a clutch of visuals. I'm probably going to keep all of them. There's a good chance of that. So before I get bombarded with messages, I think that we're probably going to hold them all back. But it's, again, a lot of really cool things happening with black rat snakes for us this year.
Very, very cool.
But yeah, other than that, man, just chugging right along, doing what we're doing and staying busy because it's that time of year.
Sure.
For sure.
Well, before we get to the updates, I want to talk about herping in the desert. So this was usually every time I go to the desert, now I'm usually going to Tucson or rodeo at least once a year, which is nice for work. And, we go to the conference during the day and then we herp at night. Now we call it the derping. That's our new term. It's birding, but we're not birding because he's an ornithologist. But we're birding and herping, so derping is what I came up with. So anyway, but normally, past 4 years I've gone, the road cruising was what was fun. And I don't need to find an Arizona mountain king snake. I don't need to find, a lepidus to be happy. If I find an Atrox, a Western Diamondback, and then another Western Diamondback, and then another Western Diamondback, this hoopy from West Virginia is as happy as he can be. But I declared it. This has been the year that I was going to get a freaking Sidewinder. Remember we went to Briga and everybody promised me one, and we didn't.
It's guaranteed, Zach. It was guaranteed.
It was guaranteed. And so I mentioned this on one of our episodes, and Kevin Pollock, great guy, had him on the show, came to Kaluberfest, emailed me, and he was like, hey, I've got a road for you for Sidewinders, because I mentioned I really wanted to try to find Sidewinders. Now, it's not the right... Sidewinders are common, don't get me wrong. Well, maybe they are. I don't think they freaking exist. Can you tell where this is going? So, anyway, I talked to Kevin and, love that he was willing to share a spot. Well, my wife and my son came out for a couple days ahead of the conference so we could go to the Grand Canyon and do family things. And I told Kathy, your wish is my command on this, but our night in Tucson, before all my people show up from West Lib, I'm road herping with Colin, and I'm going to go to Northwest Tucson and try to find a sidewinder. So Kevin gave me a run. So Colin and I get out. The sunset was incredible. We're going out, first time road cruising. And that poor kid, because I didn't have anybody else with me, and I told him, like, we're getting a winder before we sleep. And I drove the same 15-mile road circuit from an hour before sunset to about 1 a.m, just incessantly. We didn't see a live snake during that. I mean, it was just a complete gut punch. And that's not because of Kevin. They are having a pretty gnarly drought. And I know you think desert drought, but there's the monsoons. The monsoons haven't really shown up yet. And everything's just kind of baked to a crisp. Now, on the way home, I got out of the circuit. We got a dead gopher and we got a dead Atrox. But I was like, here we go. Here we go. So my people show up. They're like, where are we going to go herping, Zach? And David Deem, who, if you remember, lived in Tucson and is a mad herper too. So I messaged David and I was like, David, where do we go for sidewinders? I went here with Kevin. It seems like it's super dry. So David was like, go here, go here, go here. Make a very long story short, the road cruising was pretty sucky. Didn't really see anything on the road. I think we got one Atrox. So we changed our strategy to night herping and well, not night herping, but hiking. And I want to say something. This is some of the coolest herping I've ever done. Spoiler, still don't have a freaking sidewinder on my list. I went out to Creosote Flats 48 hours ago, where they live, and walked around in this desolate moonscape where, once again, oh yeah, you'll get them there. This was from one of the people at our conference. We got a freaking leaf nose snake in Arizona, which is not the easiest thing to do in the middle of a drought. We got green Mojave rattlesnakes, which aren't really overly common there. We were in the Creosote Flats. This is where the damn things are. So now it's personal. I am going to, like, next year, mark my words, there might be a CCR trip for a goddamn rattlesnake, which isn't a colubrid, but I need to check this off the list.
I support this decision.
Yeah, there you go. So just to show some quick pics, Max, if you could show it. I don't know if there's anything cooler than walking through the desert and just looking to your left and seeing this. And I know this is an Atrox, and I know you guys from the West that do the desert are like, it's just an Atrox, Western Diamondback, but they never got old. Like, every single time I saw one, kid in the candy store. But the coolest thing that happened is when we were doing the birding, which we weren't doing because he's an ornithologist. We're the herp people in the group are like, oh my God. We're standing at 5 o'clock out here. Now, granted, for the desert, you want to do this. And so Kinsey, who I work with, we walk up and Matt's looking at a vermilion flycatcher, if you know what that is. And I'm like trying to stay awake. My poor kid who was with me, Colin, he's like barely alive at this point. And Kinsey goes, there's a rodent on the ground. And we look down and there's this rodent flopping around. And I was kind of in a stupor, so I didn't quite know what was going on. And then I looked down and there were 2 little pinpricks of blood in its face, actually. And I was like, holy hell, there's a rattlesnake somewhere. So we're looking around. Matt's looking up at the bird, Dr. McKinney. And I was like, okay, here's what we're going to do. And we watched the rodent die. It was a round-tailed ground squirrel, if you know what that is. I was like, we're going to go away. And then 20 minutes later, we're going to come back and see if the snake comes out. And so everybody's out doing their thing. And I remembered, hey, I got to go check. And one of the coolest things I've ever seen with snakes in the wild was, bring up the picture, Max. I'm scanning and I don't see the rodent. That's actually not a round-tailed ground squirrel that I'm looking at. It's some kind of, anyway, this isn't a rodent podcast. So, so I'm looking and I was like, shit, sorry. Something took the rodent. Like, the rodent's not there anymore. Well, the snake had come back and drug it into the bush that it was obviously hiding in. And I got to spend 20 minutes watching an Atrox slurp down a rodent, which was pretty freaking cool. So the birding trip as I said in a post I made, I will go birding every damn day of the week if I get to watch rattlesnakes eat rodents. Like, that was super, super cool. So even though we got mostly common stuff, we got a bunch of long-nosed snakes, got a bunch of atrox. It was great. I just enjoyed being out there. And then we went into a place called one of the canyons in Tucson, and bring that pickup, Max. It was super cool. This blacktail rattlesnake was right off the trail. So people couldn't see this snake. They weren't in danger of getting bitten. I don't want you to think I'm some kind of crazy psychopath that wants people to be envenomated. But I sat about 10 feet away on a rock and watched 20 people walk over top of the snake and not even know it was there. And it just was like a super testament to these things don't want to hurt you. They don't even give a crap about your existence.
Right.
They just want to be. So I got to spend the morning with a molluscus, a black-tailed rattlesnake, which is one of my favorites. He's looking a little bit emaciated, could be a little bit healthier looking, but at the same time, that was super cool. And then, like you said, I got clutches hatching everywhere. Our guest today is Scott Russell from Boss Hogs. This is extremely self-serving. I'm going to, full disclosure, I'm converting a lot of my collection into bull snakes. Obviously, I do hognose snakes. Scott works with bulls and hognose snakes, and I have. So we'll be talking about that with him today. But yeah, no, but while I was on the trip, we had a clutch very much like that multi-het bull clutch. We didn't know that we had hets. I thought we just had normal bull snakes in our school collection. And my animal keeper, assistant curator, Lauren Mort, sent a picture to us out in the desert and was like, what the hell is going on here? And there's like albinos and hypos and normals and white-sided. Nice. And I was like, oh, okay. So, we're kind of in that as well. I will say, I often say not a morph keeper. That's cool. It is cool to look in an egg box and see like what appears to be 6 different species of snake.
Yeah.
And they're all the same damn species. They're just different variants of.
It's like you just threw a bag of Skittles in there, man. It's freaking awesome, isn't it?
It was pretty. Yeah. And I will be saying that some of those are not leaving West Lib. They're staying right there. So anyway, all right, let's bounce into the science update and the market update. So I don't care who goes first this time.
I'll take it because mine's not going to be real long.
Okay, cool.
The market update, I was on the fence because we're right at that point where this could have been the big one with all the numbers and the graphs. I'm going to push that to the next episode. However, I will probably go ahead and put the data together right at the end of this month so it's accurate and it's not a week or so into the month. But what I will share are observations over what's really taken place over the last 2 weeks from what I've witnessed. So in the last 2 weeks, we have not been at a show. So I can't attest to the shows. But as that reminds me, of course, the market update is brought to you by the Show Me Marketplace and the Show Me Reptile shows. Obviously, Mickey and his team. Colubrid Fest is happening because of them. So please continue to support the Show Me Reptile show. If there's a show anywhere near you, hop in there, check it out. Mickey and his team do a lot to bring the right vendors, to bring the right crowd. So support those that support us. So what I've seen in the market, I've done a lot of talking over the past, really, probably last 3 episodes, I think, where I've used the phrase early arriver. Be an early arriver, where as soon as you have animals that are ready, get the pictures, get them posted, because you're getting the hunger is there right now. People are itching to start seeing what's happening, and if you're one of the first to have those animals out there, you're going to get hit on them very quickly, and that has been the case for me.
Yeah, nice.
For us out here at Metazotics, the in-store traffic has started to pick up. It's because you have that summer lull, and then it starts to get the incline where I'm expecting there to be another hit down for the probably next week and the week after, and that's that immediate back to school, and that's where snakes and cages and all that just aren't on everybody's minds over that couple week period. So not going to be surprised if that happens. But online, good Lord, We have, I think, somewhere around 300 animals posted at the moment. And there has been so much online hits lately there's a lot of questions. And for any of those who listen to the show, I'm going to apologize now because I've had a lot of questions for additional pictures. And this is not the time of the year where that can really happen. I'm taking pictures of 70 snakes sometimes in a day, going to get multiple pictures of one animal. So please forgive me because that's the response I'm giving is sorry if we're too deep in, but especially because I feel that the pictures I'm posting are pretty accurate representations. This is the animal in solid lighting, but regardless, anyways, so we've had a lot of online sales that are hitting, and we're talking very rapid succession. And the species that I've seen a lot of movement on right out of the gate has been black rat snakes. That's kind of what led me to think, you know what, why don't I go ahead and post some of these pictures of some of the cool things that, have hatched out, because it's funny. I see trends. I don't like to I tend to not talk about something that is trending down in a certain species or this or that, because if we say those things, obviously it's going to make it even worse. I'm not hiding anything. It's nothing like that. But what I love is when I see cycles happen in various species. And, if there's a cycle that's going into a dip at the moment, it'd be cow kings. They're dipping a little more, and they'll end up popping back up, in another few years. But black rat snakes, they slowed a little bit, and it seems like there's a big ramp up, on them again with that's what I've probably been asked for the most. Now, given, I think that being who we are and being known for black rats, we would be, but rusticos, I don't know if you're familiar with that, which basically is, forgive me, I know he was on RGI recently, and he actually sent me pictures of these animals back when he was trying to figure out what the hell he was dealing with. And what it was is a Lucy, which is co-dom, right? Incomplete dominant rusty, rusty to rusty. So a super rusty is a leucistic black rat snake that was bred to a calico, which is a recessive mutation, and they're allelic. And when he first sent it, I was like, you may have some hidden hets in there or something because of the way these things look. But then as they became adults, it was clear that they didn't look like anything else. And so the name is now Rustico. I believe Glenn Brooks has some as well. We produced a clutch of those this year. I think that's another morph that is kicking black rat snakes back in. Cool. I know there's an individual who just bought a Lucy male and 3 calico females, and I know exactly what he's doing with them. He's wanting to make rusticos. But again, I think that's a species that's going to be hot this year. It seems to be taking off pretty quickly. But going back to, giving the advice, the early arrivers, that's only going to last another few weeks, because at this point you're going to start seeing a lot more. But as long as you're getting that stuff posted with speed, then it should. Now, stay ethical. Yes. Don't post things before you should. Okay. If you're going to post them with minimal meals in them, then you need to say that. Exactly. Be honest. Don't try to beat people out, and then get yourself a bad reputation because you sent something out that shouldn't have been. But all in, that's kind of where the market is we're now at that point where if we see another little bitty dip over the next few weeks, it's going to simply be because the kids are going back to school and how that affects the parents. But other than that, we are now on the pop. And so this is the time that, there's going to be a lot of animals that exchange hands over the next 60 to 90 days. No doubt.
There you go. Cool. All right. Well,
over to you.
Science update. Science update is brought to us by Rare Genetics, Inc. And as was discussed on the previous episode, there you go. We have a code that I believe gets you 10% off.
15.
15. Oh, yeah. More than 10. Holy hell. Your order with them. And so, code is CCR15. But please be supporting them. Please be sending them the sheds. Ben will be actually giving one of the panels at Colubrid Fest, which I'm pretty excited about. And it's going to be topics in colubrid breeding from a genetics perspective that we think we know, but we don't know. And so on that line of thought, Kayla reached out to us, and basically, if you're listening to this and you're thinking, man, Ben should talk about blah, 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 why don't you message me on social media, Instagram or Facebook, and tell me, I'd really like it if you discussed blah, and I will be sure to get that to them to see if we can incorporate it into the actual discussion at Colubrid Fest, because this is for you. Mm-hmm. It is not for us. But those sheds, bring them to Colubrid Fest, labeled. Please label them. Send them to them so that they can do more things for us, the colubrid keepers of the world. So, yeah. All right. I knew this was going to happen, and it's cool that it happened. I think it's funny. I'm not, upset. There's no drama in CCR. This is for fun. Somebody finally said, when are you going to do journal articles again? Because they are on to me that it's really hard to read a damn journal article and then discuss them when I am bouncing all over the planet like I have since April. So it's been a lot of book reviews. The next episode, I'm even going to tell everybody what journal article I'm reviewing, because I've had multiple people say, when are you going to review that article? So there was an article, rather infamous article, infamous in a good way, bad way, depending on where you fall on this spectrum. And there was no way we weren't discussing it, by the way. I've read it 4 times already, where these researchers in Canada raised hognose snakes in racks. They raised hognose snakes in enriched enclosures. They kept them going for a fairly decent amount of time. Then they sacrificed the animals, and they actually did MRI scans of their brains to see if the brain development was different. And it's, it is absolutely going to be a key paper in herpetoculture specific to snakes. There's no way I wasn't doing that paper on here. But I didn't want to just do it. I wanted to actually do it as well as I possibly could. And I am going to be home now, so I have the time to do that. But I also really like the book reviews, and people like the book reviews. And guess what? We're doing another book review. So this is the last book review for a little while. And I saved this one for last because this is one of my favorites. So this book is titled, if you don't have YouTube, Hunters in the Trees, A Natural History of Arboreal Snakes. Now, it does not just cover colubrids. All arboreal snakes are covered in this book. The author is Richard, I can't say his name properly, Sajadak. And Richard was affiliated with a museum. I believe he did some zoo work too. And he was a naturalist. And for the natural history nerds out there that love the kind of thing that I love, this is just a great, fun book. A lot of snake physiology and snake biology specific to what an arboreal snake is discussed in this book. Turns out when you live in a tree, the issue that snakes have is when you're going up the tree, you have to pump blood against gravity up into your brain. And when you're going down the tree head first, you have to keep all the blood in your body from pooling in your brain. There's an awful lot of crazy physiology that snakes do to deal with this. The placement of the heart is important. The type of valves and all the venation, basically the circulatory system, pretty cool. And then when you live in a tree, you have to you can't be big and fat like a blood python. You've got to be this long, gracile body plan. And so all that evolution in natural history is discussed. And then Richard takes certain groups of arboreal snakes, like arboreal vipers and vine snakes and boiga, and just does a nerdy deep dive on what makes them fun and cool. I will say, if you like the book I wrote on false water cobras, this book, Hunters in the Trees, was a huge inspiration for me when I was trying to figure out, like, how am I going to write this so it doesn't read like tax code and be a nerdy, like too nerdy. I don't, no, as far as I'm concerned, that doesn't exist. But anyway, so really good one. It's not a very thick book, but it's a large book. So if you're listening to this in a car, I don't know, this is a coffee table sized book, but it's about a centimeter thick. I've seen it for sale for as cheap as $10. It's out of print, so you need to get your hands on it. I've also seen it for sale for like $80. So what happens when we do these book reviews on here, I've noticed, which is pretty cool, is that the book is reviewed, and then I kind of follow it, and all of a sudden it disappears from Amazon about 5 days after the episode hits. So if you want to get your hands on this one, get it now. But if you are a Boiga keeper, if you are a Spilotes keeper, if you keep the neotropical bird snakes, all those arboreal critters, rat snake keeper, for crying out loud, this is definitely a fun book. Can't recommend it enough. I've read it a couple times, and it does not read like a scientific journal. It is a fun book to read. He incorporates personal travels into the book. He talks about, fun studies and boils them down the way that we do on the show. So I knew this was an inevitable one. So to kind of wrap up the book reviews for the summer of 2025, now that Zach's butt will actually be in Wheeling, West Virginia for a little bit, this was the one I wanted to save for the end. So Hunters in the Trees, A Natural History of Arboreal Snakes. Go get yourself a copy. It's a good one. So there's that. And then another thing, I just want to give a couple updates on the hognose snake book, because I have a lot of people reaching out to me about that, and they just want to know where I'm at. I finally came up with a system that's working. So, and I've met with John Rice, my co-author, a couple times this summer. We are pumped. This thing is going to be so huge. I almost feel like it should be a volume 1 and a volume 2 because of all the morphs and everything. But I got chapter 1 is written, which is an introduction to what a hognose snake is. The species accounts are what I'm doing now. And that's where I read every freaking journal article I could get my grubby little paws on and try to reduce it down into a fun to read stew. And it took me a month to figure out how to get this stuff organized, but I got an outline. I'm starting with the southern hognose snake because that's the one there's the least amount of info on, and we're going to be cranking on that. So probably not published in 2026, guys. Almost certainly will be published in 2027. But if you have cool picks, if there's topics you want in this book and you're a hog breeder, please, or keeper, by all means, let me know so I can hit the target, because once again, this is for you. And then the other thing on the book front, which is an important thing for y'all to know, and then we'll get on to with Scott, is Russ Gurley. I love Russ Gurley, Living Art Publishing. He's the guy that published the False Water Cobra book that I wrote, the Dipsada book. This is a funny story. We may have talked about it, but I just want to. So we're at IHS. That's when I see Russ. I see Russ if I go to IHS. I see Russ if I go to Tinley. Otherwise, it's communication. All the way back in early winter, we were talking about before the tariffs hit, do we want to get another print run done of the False Water Cobra book? Because it's all sold out. And the last thing I heard was, I don't think we can swing it. And then I'm at IHS for less than 5 minutes, I think. I bump into Russ. I bump into somebody else. Sorry. I bumped into you. It was Clint. And he's like, hey, what are we going to do about your book? This is Clint. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, oh, Russ printed it. I had no idea, guys. None. Clint found out that my damn book was printed again before I did. So Russ is sending me a bunch of copies.
It's my job to be in the know.
He is, man. So if you want a copy of the False Water Cobra book and you don't have one, and you're one of the many people that reached out to me, I do not know how many copies I am getting. I just know that I am getting copies. There will be copies available at the CCR table at Colubrid Fest. So if you're coming to Colubrid Fest, get those quick. I could get 10. I could get 200. I don't know how many I am getting. And then Russ is sending me a bunch that I can move personally. I don't know if I'm going to get these this week, next week, but I'll definitely have them by September 13th, because that's when, the weekend of the 12th, when Colubrid Fest is happening. But the book is back, what I wanted to tell you all. So if you want to get a copy, this is the time to do it. And yeah, so.
And if you are not coming to Colubrid Fest, Metazotics currently has 3 copies still available.
There you go.
From this latest run with Zac's signature in each one. So if you want a signed copy from Zac, you can go online to Metazotics.com and get them while supplies last, because I don't have many at the moment.
Yep.
I also, before, are you finished?
I'm done.
I thought so. Speaking of books, that leads me into something before we move past everything here and get into the second part of the show. There is a book that I have on my bookshelf right now. Actually, I believe I have two. The Complete Boa.
Oh, yes. We need to talk about this.
By Vin Russo.
Yes.
And which a book I love. I've actually referenced it many times with different species of boas. And we obviously want to bring that up because for those who have not seen on social media or news outlets, Vin Russo, who had a large boa breeding facility, I'm sure he had other species as well, but boas are what he's known for. And we're not just talking about like Morse, we're talking a lot of locality specific animals.
He had the locality boa collection in North America.
Yes. I mean, absolutely incredible. His facility burned down. And, I think we can all imagine how devastating, that would be for any of us at any level, especially, someone who has amassed it's not even the size of the collection that, my heart yearns for. It's knowing this was a man who went out and actually collected some of these specific animals that were brand new into the hobby and, established them in captivity, and we have him in the hobby because of his efforts with him. So that's it's absolutely heartbreaking. I know that there are fundraisers out there. If you just do a little search, you're going to find stuff. I believe there's a strong possibility that David Levinson, for those who know him in the boa world, on the Trap Talk Network, he does the show with Jeff Gelwood a lot. I was lucky enough to be on there and love David. I mean, me and Dave are good friends. I think he actually may be doing a show here at Metazotics, his podcast. And I know that that's going to be one of the topics is Vin and what's going on there. So even though it's not a colubrid, we want to definitely pass the CCR heart out to Vin Russo and what he's dealing with and going through right now, because it's certainly heartbreaking and it can happen to any of us.
Yes, it can.
I think you just had
literally today.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had a cheap extension cord that I was telling Scott before we came on that I had. My wife and I did a big upgrade with the electrical in the garage. We put in arc fault circuits so that whenever anything starts arcing, it just shuts it down. And this is the one flipping old extension cord that was plugged into an outlet that was not part of the upgrade. And at the end of the extension cord, there was a 3-prong to 2-prong adapter that I had in there in case I needed to plug something in quick. It's actually where I would plug in the soldering iron to punch holes into things. That's what I used it for. And I woke up this morning after 2 hours of sleep to a house that had some smoke in it, and it was horrifying, and ran downstairs. And I thought for certain that it was a piece of heat tape that was melting a rack or whatever. And do have to admit, I was pretty relieved to see what it was, but it definitely made me start thinking. And we may be going to ambient heat for the rest of the summer because that shakes you to your core.
Yeah.
I'm still kind of shook.
See, and I've had the heat tape on a tub, that basically it was a probe had gotten dislodged from a rack system, and this had underbelly heat. Yeah. Heat tape. And so it was just cooking. And, enough where it's burning through the tub and all that. I mean, just thinking on how far it could have went, very easily. So be cautious, check everything. And I don't know what happened as far as Vin's, what happened out there. So we're not saying it was due to something, faulty or anybody's fault or anything like that. We don't know what caused it. It's just something that, when you hear of these kinds of things, it obviously makes you want to double check what you're working with and, certainly, be mindful and cognizant of it. So,
Yep. Hell yeah.
Okay.
And there are several GoFundMe's for Vin. Make sure it's a real one, but he's one of the good ones.
Yeah.
So by all means, let's show support because we want him back in this. So
absolutely. I think we're now moving into our guest segment, and as always, that is going to be brought to you by ReptiChip. ReptiChip has some fun. I literally just paid a freaking invoice. I've got another whole pallet with multiple ReptiChip products coming to Metazotics, and I mean, this is when I say pallet, their pallets are taller than I am, and I may have to take a picture of that and post it on CCR's our Facebook page because it's definitely a fun thing when those come in. But I use it. Zac uses it.
Yeah.
We're big fans, obviously. Otherwise, ReptiChip wouldn't be with us. But
there you go.
Support those that support us. So let you take it away.
So today, bringing him to the stage right now, we have Scott Russell from Boss Hogs.
Hey.
Yeah. Welcome
to the
show, Scott. We know you listen. Scott was one of the vendors and one of the first participants at Colubrid Fest. That's where I met him. But, if you're in the DC, Baltimore, Annapolis area, you'll see him. You'll see him at Tinley. You'll see him at,
yep.
Yeah.
Pennsylvania, Maryland, Virginia. That's where the local shows are.
Yeah.
For me.
No. And I do have to give credence. So Scott obviously does hogs, bulls, possibly other things we'll get into. But my favorite shirt of all herp shirts, of all of them, and I now have several of them, is the infamous little baby hognose snake popping out of an egg, and it says, "Pipping ain't easy," and I love that thing to death.
Okay, that's great.
I don't
remember you actually telling me you like it that much, so that makes me happy.
Yeah, no,
it's a good one.
You gotta keep it stupid.
Yeah.
Don't get you. These are snakes, guys. Come on, we're just having a good time.
Yeah, sure. All right, so standard issue intro question that we love asking people, which is kind of the backstory. So how did Scott get to the point where he's being interviewed about the snakes he's breeding with snakes all around him?
Oh boy, I'll try to be quick. I think like a lot of people, maybe in my generation or age at least, you have multiple iterations of you being into the hobby, and for a lot of people it starts with dude, I was 6 when I saw Jurassic Park in the movie theater, and it gave me nightmares for 2 years, and was also the coolest thing I've ever seen. But also, you have the Scales and Tails birthday party where there's a picture of me with a bowl cut holding a ball python, at the age of 7. Yep, there it is. So, being obsessed with that stuff, having a lot of pets in middle school, age, but then also being a victim of ADHD and not knowing what that is. So, through my teens and 20s, I was into skateboarding and music and all this stuff and dabbled with reptiles, but it kind of culminated with, I guess when I turned 30, I just done 2 road trips in a van I had that I used for I had a catering business where I did snacks and stuff for people on film and commercial sets. And I used that to buy a van, and then I would go camping in it and stuff. And it was weird because I came back after a second trip, and I'm just on Instagram, and I see a super Arctic hognose when they're still pretty new. I'm pretty sure it was actually Jeff Galewood's account. And I had some hognose when I was 20, and I was also interested because I read a book where one of the stories was about them when I was a kid, and it just got that itch kind of in your head where you couldn't stop thinking about it again. And I'm man, I have a house now. I'm older, and I know how to do a lot more stuff now than when I was a kid. You're more successful with this crap when you know how to build an enclosure or racks or solder stuff. And working in film sets, I actually did grip and electric, where you run temporary power and you build big things that augment light and stage kind of stuff. So it's oh man, I have all these skills. I can actually understand. I don't even know how to just solder heat tape. I actually understand how electricity works, which goes a long way with not having errors and stuff. And it kind of just was one of those, getting back into another thing I was passionate about in the past, and it snowballed, and it kind of hit this, was kind of perfect timing where I'd been doing for a couple of years before COVID, but then COVID hit, And as actually the film industry is really kind of like dead now, especially in Maryland. Like the work is just not there. There's no commercials, no movies, no nothing. So almost like my side hustle became my main hustle, almost not by choice, because I was like, oh crap, like good thing I like invested and like built my basement out and like really like grinded out all the finer details of doing this during COVID, because now I like, I don't want to say have to do it. I mean, I could always do something else, but it made too much sense, and it felt like it. I just, like I've tried a lot of stuff, and sometimes you're doing this, and I'm just like, I can do this. I can do this. I can clean tubs. I can raise snakes up. I can breed them. I can sell them to people. I can vend these shows. Vending a show and setting up a table is similar to like setting up a snack bar on a movie set. You got to make shit look good, like people want it, and give variety and have it be so people can understand what they're looking at. So I have all these like little skills that kind of added up. I'm like, okay, this works. And for a while, I thought it was like, well, really, aside from how economies work and stuff, I could technically feel like this could be like the last thing I do. Like I could just do this until I die or something. And not really because it's like I'm so insanely passionate about it, but because it's just something I like. I think I was actually cut out to do something like this. And now experiencing my first like major downswing with stuff over the past like year or two. It's kind of like it's like the aftermath of COVID, but also like economics. And it's like it's always more complicated than people say it is. It's like a bajillion different factors. Anyway, it has me rethinking stuff to where like it's a tough life, because you're like, man, I could on paper do this for the rest of my life. I also have to be like mentally prepared for the idea that every year I might not be doing it the next year if just something happens. You have, I don't even want to say it, but you have like a Vin Russo episode, where you lose everything, or just some other, it doesn't, the economics don't make sense for the scale at which you're breeding or what you're trying to do. So I've kind of like stepped back a little bit, because being like, I do want to do this, but it's gonna be a lot less devastating if I'm like prepared to not be super reliant on this forever, like not to commit to be like reliant on doing this for a living.
So you're
yeah.
So sorry. So you're a full-time breeder. This is what you do.
That is true, but I feel like the caveat is like I've in my 20s, I spent a lot of time trying to make my life kind of cheap to live.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I have a house.
That helps.
I own a house. The mortgage is pretty reasonable. I spent, like all through my 20s, just like doing a lot of work on it myself. It's totally like, it's not like really worth more. Like it still looks like some homeowner did all this stuff, but it is sturdy. All the shit in it is good. Like the roof ain't leaking, the gutter. Oh my God, the gutters work. I got a sump pump. I got a finished basement. My basement is so dry that I have to put a humidifier here in the winter. Oh yeah, you're so jealous.
I am really very jealous.
I live in Baltimore. I live like
it can rain in mine.
So I have a lot of stuff like that I'm super psyched about, and I don't know. It's like also as I've gotten older, you like just want less when you realize when this cool stuff is kind of free anyway. So I like food and cooking and going to reptile shows and doing some other modest stuff. I just ain't going on like 3-month vacations or anything. And I have a 20-year-old car, Toyota Highlander. Shout out! I'm gonna put like 8 million miles on that thing, hopefully. A lot can be said about like having that engineering your lifestyle a bit to where you you're like put into like a desperate situation so quickly.
So my question is now, what got you going to, because I know that, the hog nose are your primary, what you keep the most of, correct? Make sure I'm not.
That's right.
Speaking,
Yeah.
I thought so. What moved you in that direction specifically?
I think it was like kind of a vague interest that kept showing up in my life, where there was some book about a kid I read like in the 90s or whatever when I was 10 or something, about a kid who like he was just about how he found snakes in his backyard and set them up, and he like just wrote about what happened. You know, he found a king snake, then he found another one, then he found out that king snakes eat each other when you put two of them in the tank, and he found an eastern hognose, and he just kept describing. I'm like, that's just so strange. You know, I like when I was a kid, I was like, I like boas and garter snakes and all this other stuff, but like that's weird, you know. And then when I was 20, I started seeing them on like king snake and stuff, just normals and stuff, and I had them. And there's something alluring to them, especially like the babies when you see them, like they, because their scales are so smaller and their like locomotions like really kind of different when they like kind of just like kind of like glide and buzz around when they're babies. There's just something like captivating about it. I mean, that was really what it is, just like how they moved and how they looked. And then, you know, back then there were no morphs, but then I'm like, you know, 10 years later, I'm just like on Instagram and I see a super Arctic, and I got to credit, I think it's Jermaine from Shovel Nose Hogs. He said to me, or said on a podcast, that the super Arctic is the coolest snake morph he's ever seen. Not coolest morph for a species, coolest morph for a snake. And that was really thought provoking, because it's like, I truly don't know a lot of other morphs that are that interesting and that extreme that totally change how something looks. You know, it's comparable. And like, the only thing that's like maybe like that is like stuff like Lucy snakes, you know, because that gives people a wow factor, or like a cowrie tick. You know, you show that to someone who like swears to God they hate snakes, and you show them like a cowrie tick, and they're like, their brain just starts they're just like, oh my God, that's too crazy not to be cool, you know. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's okay. So so a visceral reaction to just experiencing them, and I think that's kind of one of the best ways to guide what to work with when it comes to animals, you know, because you're like, I mean, I know we've all seen snakes. You see a particular snake, and you're like, damn, that's a hot looking snake. I'm like, and you're like thinking about it later. You're like eating lunch, and you're like, oh, that snake I saw is like messing me up. Like how cool it looked. I must have one. You know, so I think that's the, you know, a good place to come from, you know, when picking stuff.
See, my problem is it's not one species that does that for me. It's ooh, I like that one. Ooh. Yeah. Look at those. Ooh, look over here.
That's where like self-control and discipline come in. See, you have the opposite problem. Like the people I have trouble working with are the people that need to be told what to like. You know, there are new people in the hobby, or people looking just more like kind of business minded or whatever. You know, like what's good, what's hot. And I'm just like, I can't help you with, you know, that direction, because like it's something you're not supposed to be over emotional about stuff in life, right? Yeah. But this is one thing I think you're supposed to follow your emotions, like follow your gut, your heart. And if you like too many things, that's fine. This advice isn't for you, basically. You know, it's for people that just aren't sure what to do, you know.
So how did you? And we're gonna explore this more, but this is just kind of the surface level. So we're doing hogs. At what point do you go from these small hognose snakes to, second largest snake in North America? That's cool. Bull snakes. When did bull snakes, and when did they come in, and how did they get there?
It's not what you think, actually, because so in 2017 I got back into this hobby, and this is like really odd because it was on king snake, and it was nice because I felt like it was a little bit just before like the hobby really started to peak online. Yeah. So where like king snake and fauna classifieds and that stuff still were like kind of the mainstay. And some guy he had a non-feeder bull snake hatchling, which is a bizarre concept. I don't know. Maybe he wasn't trying that hard. And a non-feeder hognose snake, and they were both females. And he was just like, if you just pay the shipping, you know, I'll send them to you. I don't feel like dealing with them. And I was still, admittedly, getting back into it. I was doing that thing where you lie to yourself, where you're like, I'm just going to get like a couple pairs of snakes. I'm not really going to do anything. And you also try to look for deals, or you're like try to find something on like Craigslist or whatever. You know, luckily I actually ran into John Rice really early on. And you talk to someone like that, and then you realize that it's really stupid to do stuff like that if you actually want to do this stuff, you know, pursue this stuff seriously and have some like control over like your biosecurity and whatnot. So yeah, I got them at the same time. The bull snakes were also a vague interest from childhood and stuff. Like I think particularly you're just reading the herping guides and stuff you get as a kid, because it's just like, well, what could I find in my state? What's around me? Well, hognose, the Western hogs and the bulls, they're not. But if for whatever reason, I remember just reading about them, being like, oh, they're cool, they're big, they hiss, whatever. And I got this one non-feeder, and that just, I think it helped that I hadn't had a snake in a very long time. So getting these two snakes, I just built my own like 2-level rack out of plywood in tubs and made heat tape, because I'm just like, well, I can get an aquarium and get this thing later, or I can just skip the step and go straight to that, because I know I'm that, like, I didn't even know from a kid, like the people that like do this stuff, you know, they keep them in racks, keep them more like efficiently like that. And it was rewarding, actually. Well, neither of them were super hard to get feeding again. So there was like a rewarding thing. You get a little bit of momentum, and then you just start looking for more stuff once you kind of like prove the concept. And then it just snowballs to where, all right, well, I had like a walk-in closet when I redid my bedroom. It's like so it's a house where like one bedroom is way bigger than the other one. Like it's just 2 bedrooms. And I made a giant closet when I redid it. And I'm like, all right, well, I'll keep it in there. I got, you know, that I built one rack that held like 24 of these like reptile basic ones. And it could either be like 1, 2, or, you know, small, medium, or large size. And I had a very organic progression of like, all right, I filled a rack up with 20 snakes. You know, now I got to grow out stuff for the bull snakes. And, you know, then after a couple years, I got my first clutch, and then you're like, okay, well, I'll build a baby rack, or I'll build a couple. And I built pretty much a copy of everything I use now first. And I swear to God, it was just to prove to myself that buying the pre-made stuff is worth it. You know, like I made like a V70 rack. I swear to God, it took a month. You know, it was pretty spot on, but I'm like scratching my head. I'm like, you know what? These ones that are cut, you know, on a CNC table, they always fit. None of them are tight. None of them are gappy. I don't get all like dyslexic and like cut the wrong side of a board or route it wrong, or, you know, and then there's all that time. It's like before you get enough animals, you're like, well, once you get enough animals, you're like, well, I need this time to like actually take care of these things. I can't be like, you know, measuring the same piece of plastic like 30 times to run it through a table saw, you know, for all these levels, rounded levels and stuff. You know, so I was like, very kind of like almost like reluctant. I was like, I'm not really doing this. I'm not really doing this. We're gonna like build some stuff. I'm just gonna get a few snakes. And then it just kind of doubled down during COVID, because I got a lot of indoor time to, you know, have a lot of fun with it. And of course, it helps when people are like buying stuff, you know, so you almost have this like inflated, you know, market a bit, where it was just like a very rewarding few years, you know.
It's great. Metazotics wouldn't exist if COVID didn't happen.
Yeah.
I really think that was one of the things that pushed us, you know, into it. So
that's great. It was certainly fun while it lasted. But unfortunately, like, I mean, I guess it was like kind of profitable the whole time, but the year, like last year, or last year, where I was supposed to like finally had multiple generations of snakes I've bred and raised up, and I have like more morphs and more selection. Like when I feel like I had the snakes everyone was asking for, was like the first year that, you know, it started slowing down. And also the first year that having a late season really bit me in the butt, because it's the opposite of what you're saying, Clint, where people really do, like, it's almost like the early stuff, people are like, they feel like they have less time to think about it, you know?
And honestly, they don't, you know, or, I'm sorry, meaning they do have less time because somebody is going to grab it. It's that pent up demand has been there, and they've just been itching to see the new thing. So,
and for a few years, there would be like a vacuum in the fall where like there'd be lower stock and all my stuff would be fresh. It just didn't happen last year, and it wasn't the end of the world, but it was definitely something where I'm like, I'm not going to make 300 snakes a year if I can't sell 300. It's like, it's not really that fun to feed that many every week. You know, if I only have to feed 150, you know, like I'm just going to do that. I I would rather do that than the other thing where it's like, oh, well, I have to make more snakes because they're selling for cheaper. Because like, I feel like once you get into the high volume stuff, there's going to be a direct relationship between, I mean, a little bit like lack of quality control, but also lack of control over who your customers are and what they do with your animals.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think part of it for me is that we know that every person that buys one of our snakes, not every single, you know, some of them are going to die, whether it was miscare or neglect, or we shouldn't have sold that person that snake. But there's also, you know, everyone decides for themselves, like, what's a fair threshold, you know? So even if you say, like, say 10% of them die, and you sell 100 snakes, it's 10. But if you sell 1,000 snakes a year, that's 100 snakes that are dead every year because you needed to get someone to give you money for it and take it home and neglect it or do something stupid with it. And that's, I'm not saying you can't do that, but I think when you find the right balance, you get something that's more fair towards the animals you're working with. And I don't know, more fair towards you, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, I want to talk about how you do bulls and how you do hogs. And then I also would like to do just a quick down and dirty review of some of the morphs. So if you're listening to this on a podcast app, we will have photographs. So you might want to check it out on YouTube. But before we get to that, we'll do bulls first since we're on it, and then we'll segue over to hogs. So your approach to bull snakes from hatchling to adult, is it like rack, or do they do rack enclosure? Or how do you, I mean, you have the benefit of the hyper dry basement. Bastard. So
I'm proud of that. I never thought I'd be saying that.
Love in my heart. But yeah, so what is just, all right, I have this snake, it's hatched out of an egg, I'm going to retain it. What is that snake's life going to look like at Boss Hog?
Sure. Both of the species, I keep them together until they have their first shed. The bull snakes sort of feel like they have a longer duration. Like it is like a straight 2 weeks till they all shed out. And I don't even feed them till that. Sometimes they have real big, you know, lumps in their bellies. So I'll keep them all in like one of these. Do I have them right here? You know, so a smaller, you know, rack tub. I think it's like the V18 tub, which is I think it's a VE tub, but it's weird. This is a tub size. There are like not a lot of commercial racks for it, but I think Freedom Breeder and Vivarium Electronics make the tub, but Sea Serpents make the rack. What it amounts to is it's similar to like the VE6 rack from Reptile Basics, but they're a little shorter, which makes them fit into a dishwasher way better. So I can actually fit like 6 of them. I can fit 6 of them in a dishwasher instead of like only a couple of them on the bottom rack if it were the Reptile Basic stuff. That's just some tiny little detail. Point being, it's a pretty small tub. A lot of them start on fuzzies. Right off the bat, you have like a gram range of like 25 to 50 gram for babies. It's crazy. Some of them are huge. And after, you know, half a year, just move them up to like some 20 or 30. I forget, you know, I'm just familiar with all the stuff I have, so I don't exactly know how many quarts they are. But like that 20 or 30 quart tub by year, you know, they're eating like adult mice, a couple adult mice. And if I'm going to keep them, I'm switch them over to like weanling rats. And not for any other reason that, like, once you feed 1 or 2 adult mice, you're probably at the same price point of a rat, and they're, you know, there's an argument of them being nutritionally better or fattier or different, and I think the real answer is they're just very different. Like they're very different. Yeah, and they take off a lot in size after that. So I kind of like, for a lot of my babies, I admittedly just kind of slow grow them a bit. You know, it is just like once every week or 10 days, or sometimes you miss a week because you're vending 2 weekends back to back. And I'm like, well, I don't want them to regurge. I don't want them to poop, you know, and I have to bring them because I'm not keeping them. I'm going to sell them, you know. So I just keep bumping them up in rack size up to a V70. And then the adult females, they actually get a Christmas tree tub. And I have like, I have a lot of Christmas tree tub racks. There are 4 high, and then actually I have 4 of those. So it's 16 slots. I have females in 12 of them. The other ones, actually, they're really useful. You can like just put all your supplies in them. Like just load it up with like all the extra hides and like humid hide tubs and stuff. So they're like kind of kept somewhere clean and out of the way, and they're all organized there. I don't like to keep like supplies out in the open just because I'm paranoid about all the stuff you can't see and what could
That's
be.
probably for the best.
And it's just protocol. It's just like if you just do things a certain way, it doesn't matter if it's a real risk. But if you do it in such a way that ensures it's not even an issue, then you just built it into your workflow. And before you know it, none of it's actually hard. It actually gets a lot easier because you're like, oh, I don't have these problems, or I don't have to do any of this because I just do it this way. So the Christmas tree tubs are great. I think they have a really similar volume to a 2 by 4 foot by like 1 foot enclosure. I had a 2 by 4. I put my first adult female bull in, and I experienced what it was also very low. It was like 8 inches tall, so that made it even harder to clean. But just after being in there, basically like having a snake bite at your face while you're like head height trying to like clean poop out of a corner. And you know how messy these are if you don't clean it up too soon, it smears everywhere. If you clean it up too late, it crumblifies, and then you have like the poop dust. And I found myself like, you pick the thing up and you're dumping it into the trash and it's going everywhere in your whole snake room. And I'm just like, this sucks. I hate it. And I had all these other bull snakes I'm raising up. I'm like, there's no way I'm going to buy like 8 more of these enclosures and set them up this way. So I did the Christmas tree tub because it's similar volume. It's actually, I think they like the fact that it's really enclosed because they open up on the long end. So they really only have this like one, it's not even like clear. It's like translucent plastic. And I think they're actually like really happy compared to an aquarium or something where someone's like circling it all the time or walking by. These guys they're especially sensitive to movement. Like that's the one thing that seems really sets them off more than anything. So the Christmas tree tubs, you can dump them out. And if you have a spare one, I'll do the same thing. If it's cached, they've been dumping in it for 2 months and there's no more spots to clean. You just got to do a fresh one. I'll just swap with the tub. And then in the dirty area that's outside my snake room, you can dump it all there. And then you're like, it doesn't matter if there's like debris flying everywhere and it's messy because it's not like, it's actually not even in your snake room. And that I'm really happy with. The males I have admittedly crammed into V70s. They are smaller. And half of them are happy, but half of them, I think I need to get like a V90 rack, I think. I'm looking for like a tub that's like a little taller, a little wider, little longer, just to accommodate them. Like they're doing pretty good, but that, it's like where I feel like I excel with the females where they almost have like too much space now. The males are on the other end where they're the snake in the smallest tub that needs an upgrade. So that's the good news is I've moved some stuff around, and as I upgrade, it's funny, you upgrade a rack and one rack's like 2 inches skinnier and you're like, oh, well, I can put that here now. And now I have a space for that other bull snake rack. So, I'm just like really like finally trying to fine tweak
did you
to where I get max capacity.
Did you build the Christmas tree rack yourself?
Well, I built the first one to see how much it sucked. Like all the other ones, I built one and it was okay, but it wasn't fun. And then I found some other company to make the other ones for me, and it was just so I know Animal Plastics makes them, and I think there's 1 or 2 other companies that'll make them. But some guy it was a story as old as time. The guy has a rack company. He's got like 8 years of orders, and he's filing for bankruptcy and ghosting all of his customers. Yeah. And this guy, the whole time I talked to him, I'm like, all right, I want these racks, but can you give me a better price? Because I got cash, baby. I'm not I'm not like sending you a credit card or whatever. Like I got cash. He's like, yeah, whatever. I give you, whatever, $50 off or something. So it took him a while. Like he had to make them, but I was the one person he didn't screw off because I didn't give him anything. And I guess the money I gave him, he was gonna like not claim because he's filing for bankruptcy or whatever. So I'm like, I don't have a good line on an Xmas tree rack tub guy because I had to go through all that just to get him. I bought an extra one just because I was like, this is hard to get. If I ever have way too many snakes, I'd rather have another one that matches than like realize I can't get these anymore.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So then in said tub, what's going on? So what substrate are you using? Because we just recorded. Well, I can't talk about it.
Yeah, it's okay. We talked about substrate was one of the topics on there
that we talked about.
Yes.
So I'm curious to see what you're using as a substrate, and then just tell us about what's going on in like the big female tub specifically.
Okay, for all my 2 species of colubrids, I'm really happy with the aspen products.
Okay.
The chipped aspen for the hogs, chipped aspen for all the smaller bulls. I've noticed if you put shredded aspen in the smaller tubs, they're just so good. They just pile it into their water.
Yes.
You know, they in record time. I don't know how to make it work. Even, you know, and I have like water holder. It's not that they're tipping it. It's too light. It's too fluffy. And it like just rolls into places. But for the Christmas tree tub, I got enough room where the shredded aspen works. It's also a lot cheaper than the chipped, so I kind of have to because you need so much of it. I think I have extra large hide from Reptiles Basics. I'm really boring. I like those black plastic hides. They're
I got them.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. The stuff that is more naturalistic is cool. But if you want to get real about it, all this stuff I can put in a dishwasher. You know, it fits with the workflow, and it's black. It's like bull snakes. Sometimes they really want like total darkness. I've had ones when they were younger, they'd actually push their bedding up to the front of the cage to like make a berm because they hate the fact that I'm walking by, and I thought that was pretty cool. You know. So anyway, so you got the extra large hide. You can do 2 of them. I actually do a 15-quart humid hide. So there's like huge 15-quart tub. It's like two double handfuls of not chip but cocoa core, and that's also, I mean, that's in there year long, and it's also exactly what they lay their eggs in. Most of the time, they fit in there. The lids fit. They don't have a problem where they like pop them off or anything. Like sometimes they do, but overall, it's like pretty manageable. The water cup's kind of interesting because like for a while I was actually like giving them 6-quart shoebox tubs of water because I was like, screw it, they got a big cage, let's give them tons of water. The Christmas tree racks have a lot of like ribbing and infrastructure on the bottom of the tubs that give it the rigidity it needs for being so stupidly huge. And part of it are these like circles that connect to lines and stuff. You actually have to like shave them in a way that because they clip the rack when it goes in. So you'll hit that and it'll go thunk, and then it'll like make a wave, and your whole 6-quart water tub will like, you know, just like it's like a wave pool and splashes everywhere. It's very for any reptile keeper, we all know how just infuriating it is to spill that fresh water because you're like, I just spent all this time cleaning your poop up. I gave fresh bedding. This water's so clean. You know, and let me just like foul up half the bedding. So anyway, that wasn't working. So what I actually did, I was like, well, what's the biggest like deli cup I can give them to compensate at least? So I do a 24-ounce deli cup. One right here.
Oh, nice.
And then I do filing cabinets are good for storage space too, by the way. Just rip all the stuff out of them. And this is the like 4-inch, maybe thin wall PVC per hat. So you got, you know, it's a similar configuration that people do with other tubs, but I haven't really like specifically seen people that literally do this cup. I think it works. I feel like I have a lot of like concepts of science things, but I don't have an education. But like, you know, you like do things in the world and you just know how stuff works.
Practical knowledge, pragmatism.
Yeah. So I think that when you have a deep water cup like that, I don't know if saying oxygenated is important, but it gets fouler slower because there's less surface area relation to the depth of the water. You know, you have like a real shallow like saucer or whatever you use as a water thing. Not only do you get more debris in it, but it like, you know, evaporates and I feel like just stays less fresh. So I think my concept, at least until someone tells me it's a good idea, is things like this really gives them a a good volume of water, so that if you are getting a little debris in it or whatever, it's like a lot more diluted than them like sipping out of a dirty 8-ounce deli cup, you know. And that's pretty much the whole setup just for those guys. It's not super complicated. You could put the tubs are a little tall, so you can put more stuff for them to climb on. But when they're on top, they're at that humid hide, 15 quarts. That's pretty tall, so they can kind of sandwich between the ceiling and the top of their hide a bit, and they can sandwich between the top of their hide, the actual hide, and the ceiling too. So I think
so lots of options.
Sorry,
lots of options in there.
I think it's like a deceptive amount of options for how simple it looks. But if you're just like abstractly thinking about the snake's needs, you know, like it wants somewhere where it can cram into, it wants somewhere where it can be a little elevated. I think psychologically, I know it's not much, but being able to like slither around a couple hides adds some more depth than you just being in a naked box where you can see every corner.
Sure.
I think.
So, you know, I know you've got.
Quick question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry, Clint. This is a quick one. Feeding. Do you feed them on the larger side of the prey item less frequently? Do you do what would be perceived as a normal prey item more frequently? That's one of the things that I'm having fun now that I'm getting back into the pits. Is I have the hypos, 2 pairs of hypos from you. I've got the Kankakee female juvies that I'm raising up, and I'm just like having nerdy science time in my office at work because that's where they're at.
I think the bad news for stuff like that is they're just stupidly flexible and forgiving.
Yeah, it just basically determines how big you want them to be.
You can decide how you want to do that. So how I feed them right now is strictly about money, because my rodent breeder, I can buy like 1,000 small rats from him for a much better price. And even if I go by weight, like it'll be cheaper than buying 500 medium or large rats, you know? Just because like that's what he had like in surplus. So this year in particular, it's like I feed a breeding female like just 3 small rats. But if I had large rats, I would have done that. I go a little bit of middle of the road. I think they might get a meal every 7 days, like for some females that are building eggs. But it's realistically for the adults, it's like 10 to 14 days. Males get a small rat. I've also had a couple of my females in the past, they have eaten like jumbo or extra large rats, not like the size that's one size larger than large. And I'm like watching it, I'm like, damn, that's kind of impressive and scary too, because that's a lot of money, you know, if you got, you know, so I'm throwing out like 50 small rats a week or something, you know, for all these guys. Everyone gets like 1 or 2 or 3 or something.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so unfortunately, I don't have a great answer to that, because I think you can do either. I think I don't feed them really heavy when they're young though, you know. So I do kind of slow grow them when they're young, but like when it's time to like make babies and stuff, or when they're finally like big enough to start handling the rats, I'll just like give them whatever they can take.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. All right.
I know. Just another small question. Just curious. So I know we have, you know, that they're in racks, and I've got several of the Christmas tree racks myself, you know, so I know you basically just the front is where any kind of light would be coming in. So I'm assuming you don't have lights on anything. Do you do any kind of light cycling with your room, anything like that?
It's a great question. Yeah, I do the typical, like, you know, summer daylight cycle for most of the year, where it's like, not like 14 hours or something.
Close, yeah.
And I have, this is a good question. You can see how blown out my ceiling is, how much brighter it is. It's because it's shop LED lights. There's like 5 other generic versions on Amazon. They're about this big. They're strips. They connect together. They're kind of like modular. So I started buying like those kit by kit by kit. They're daylight balanced. And I had like kind of a strip in each room. And I was kind of feeling bad because it's like kind of dim. And I was just thinking, it's like, I really want them to like undeniably know it's daytime. And so when it's nighttime, that's also undeniable too. So I just doubled it up. I just bought twice as many lights. And now, so I have a really high intensity room lighting to try to compensate for the fact that I don't have lighting in the cages. So like the front of their cage is actually like hopefully like a pretty hot spot, where they can get some lighting. But then also like, especially the Christmas tree racks, they go in the back of it. They can be, in the dark.
Yeah.
And so I'm actually experiencing interesting problems. I don't think the adult hognose like it as much because they're in a hanging like kind of freedom breeder style tub, so they're more exposed to like the walls and stuff. They're not unlike a black PVC rack. So I think what I'm actually gonna do, I like the light level, but I think we're just gonna paint the wall behind the hognose black, so it's not reflecting any into the. Yeah, so we're like working in the film industry and stuff works because you're like, hey man, there's like a different way to fix that. You don't just have to dim the light. It changes it to a non-reflective color, and then you're controlling where the light is effective. So it'll just be more noticeable through the front of the tub. Your egg binding doctor guy on the colubrid test was very helpful. He was pointing that out. He's like, when the snakes are laying eggs, they really want to be somewhere in total darkness, and I think like an underslung tub where they can see through the bottom of it, in a bright room is not that.
No.
Yeah, agreed.
No, definitely not that. Cool.
I was going to say, do we want to talk about and look at a few of the morphs?
Yeah. Let's do breeding real quick, and then that'll segue, and then we'll do morphs.
Fair enough.
It's easy.
I'm curious.
Yeah. It's easy.
So here's the $1 million question, because we haven't done a North American breeding, like North American species haven't been the focus of a lot of our stuff recently.
Well, you have more cooler and exotic stuff.
Yeah. We just did Phil Peak and freaking Kentucky Pines, but that was more field oriented. So question, to brumate or not to brumate? That is the question.
Absolutely.
Do you do a full-blown brumation? Do you not? Do you just turn the lights off? Curious.
The bulls are a little different than the hogs. Like the hogs, you could brumate every year, and they're fine. It might have been your podcast, though, where Jennifer Joseph was on here.
Yeah.
And she says that she doesn't brumate her babies because once you brumate, even if you brumate like a 2-year-old female, she will cycle.
Yeah.
And there are species that she said this, and my experience has proven this to be true, that once they cycle, they're going to cycle every year, unless like you might be lucky and they might not, but they're generally going to like cycle every year. So I just joke that I'm like, well, first of all, I wait till the females are like till 4 years, so I can just give them an extra long childhood because I know they're going to be like producing eggs as long as I have them.
Yeah.
And it's like you could let them have slugs or whatever, but slugs are not good.
Yeah, no.
They're harder on the animal than laying fertile eggs. So I brumate all my adults. I can brumate males that are a year or two old, but that it doesn't work with my workflow. Where I have like the baby younger room. So this is where like bull snakes stay until they're old enough to be brumated. I'm not gonna like take the 3 hold back males out of this just to brumate them with the other ones. They don't have to like. It's just not practical. So yeah, wait till they're adults, then I brumate them. I did the fridge thing for a while. I bought like a few wine fridges. I know how to do it now. Like I got enough experience with that. But so my problem was I have a couple super dwarf retics, like they're crosses, and they're what amount to pets at this point because I don't really want to be a retic breeder. But I moved them up in my bedroom, and now I'm like, all right, I got all colubrids in my basement now. I can just crack the basement window and turn the light off, and so last year was the first year I did that. It made life a lot easier because not only you have all that space for these fridges you're keeping around. I had like an entire tub of tubs that the snakes go in for brumation that I gotta like clean and sterilize every year and put them in and take them out and label them. So I can do it all in the room now. So I consider that a huge upgrade. And the thing that made that possible, well, not exactly, but it has been well timed with the fact that I got a mini split installed on one unit on each floor. So I have a little more control over the room for not so much. It's not going to do much in the winter, but for trying to control the speed ramp that I want. Like if I'm letting them naturally brumate and they get down to 50 in the basement, if there's like a really hot spring day or something that might like screw their brumation up, then I plan to like take the AC on. Or you have something, I also just as a safety, like I love the oil radiators, the oil filled space heaters, super reliable, like one of the most like crucial tools, I think, for snake runes. I'll set that, but I'll set it to like 40 degrees on an external thermostat. So I'm like, all right, if you have some insane cold snap or something goes terribly wrong, that's the bottom end thing that'll keep them, from freezing or whatever. So it's proven to be pretty good. The bull snakes seem to love it. Like my bull snakes gave me like all these great clutches this year. The hognose are doing weird stuff. They're like, in particular, like they're just, instead of laying at 10 days on the dot, they'll hold them for like 15 or 20 and then just drop them and the eggs will be normal. They're not like overdeveloped or anything. So that's the only thing that's throwing me through a loop. But then again, the hognose seem to be like chaotically unpredictable.
Yes.
And the bull snakes, in my experience, as long as you pay attention to what they're doing, are pretty dang reliable.
So from when do you start brumation? When do you end brumation? Are you a Thanksgiving Valentine's Day person, or
it's because of the late season? The first few years, I think I'm just a person that's, everyone gets overwhelmed in this hobby, but I'm like a person whose baseline is being overwhelmed half the time. So like in the first few years, you're like, oh, I'll brumate them in November, and like, oh, but I want to do this stuff, or I don't know, I want to get a couple meals with them, and then before you know it, you're like brumating them in January, and then next year it's like 2 weeks later than that, so you just pushed a little more. So I got it written down. It's written on all the tubs. What are you, 2025?
Yeah.
January 20th to April 15th.
Holy hell. Okay, cool.
But I don't know. Snakes like breed in the spring, right?
Yeah.
They lay eggs in the
it
summer.
worked, dude.
It is a late season, but it's not like, I feel like it's less natural to be breeding your snakes in January than it is to be breeding them in May. Let me just put it that way.
Well, I mean, I'm not that far from you as the crow flies. We're almost certainly the same latitude. And one of the things I thought was really weird, this is the second time I've bred bulls here. I had a pair of Kanks that I just bought, and they did well for a couple years, and then they just died. And that's what kind of made me very gun shy about the pitch overs. But this was the year, because they're my favorite.
Well, that sucks.
Like, screw it. We're just figuring this out this year. And knock on wood, everybody's doing great in the garage because I figured out the ventilation issue.
Man, I want to knock on wood too, because I've had a lot of good luck with my bull snakes.
Yeah.
It's good.
But I did the brumation November to, like the classic thing with them. And it got cold in my garage because we had a gnarly 10-day cold snap. And I didn't think the bulls were going to go because the king snakes are all breeding like crazy. The falsies are breeding. The Japanese rat snakes are breeding. Everybody's breeding. And then right around the middle of April, after the kings and everybody were done, I started to see herky-jerky dance out of the males. And then they freaking started breeding. And then it was just awkward, the amount of breeding that was going on down there. My wife was like, what the hell what is going on in that garage? This is slightly disturbing what I'm seeing.
Oh, just all the violence and whipping around and stuff.
The violence, the biting, and just we would be watching TV and you would just hear, and she's like, what the hell is that? I was like, new bull snakes are going to be made tonight. And she's like, but they've been made the past 20 nights too. I'm like, yeah, so.
Do you keep them together?
Yeah, no, I found
like
them to be extremely easy to breed.
Do you keep them paired for long periods like that?
I don't separate mine. I am a firm believer now in like put them in, watch them, and see what's happening. But I basically had the male and the female together. I had two pairs that went, and they were together for 3 weeks straight.
Yeah, anecdotally, it seems like this is a species that doesn't mind each other. That'll probably be the most like responsible way to say that.
Yeah.
They're social, but I mean, I know this guy. I'm gonna like give him a shout out. Tim Morris. He's like one of the most. Man, you got to watch out for some of these old guys because they'll be at a reptile show. They'll be at a reptile show with like 2 house snakes on their table, and then you find out they like bred the first blue-green tree python like in the 90s, and then you find out that they were like pro skateboarders in the 80s. when you go to their house and see like all this cool stuff they've done. So he's a science teacher in Baltimore, and or the Baltimore County, and I met him at the local reptile show, and that was his introduction. He's like, "Oh yeah, man, I got pine snakes. We co-have a pair of them in my classroom, and we actually like had them breed and like hatched them out and stuff." And that's like a public high school, you know. And I think he might have been the first guy that was like, "Oh, you can do that?" Well, this guy seems like he knows what he's doing. I have augmented a bit where I leave the pairings for a while, but I don't co-have. Like if the snakes get along, I'll leave them together for a week. A lot of that is just managing when they're gonna like take a huge nasty dump, because I don't want them like laying on it with each other and stuff. But if they're in a good spot where it's like, okay, you guys ate like a week ago or whatever, or the female's got a full belly, the male's empty, he's ready to rock. Keep them in for 4 to 8 days.
I'm very gun shy, and it's because of the room. It's not any other reason than that. Is that like the airflow issue in the garage? For a tub, it's perfect for a critter that can handle moisture. It's just horrible for anything that needs a lot of air ventilation. So I had a couple 6-foot vivs, and I moved some false waters out, and I was like, I'm not going to get more false waters. We already have enough of those. Maybe we could do the bull snakes. So the bulls are actually living in these big vivs, and I have a fan that's on all the time on the end to pull air in and push air out. But this is for the house. And I do co-have the 2 males that I have are in one of those 6-foot vivs. And then the 2 female breeders I have are in one of those 6-foot vivs. And I just basically moved a male, moved a female, and that's what I did. So pretty cool. So
my light timer went off. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, okay, cool. And then incubating the eggs, standard, nothing. Any nuggets of information there before we get to more?
I saw a picture on Facebook of some old guy incubating them in like ripped up pieces of wet newspaper. So I think you could be they're pretty forgiving. I like to do cocoa core for all my eggs.
That's what I do.
The bulls in particular, I had trouble finding a big enough tub. I am of the style where I want the tub to be humid and not the incubator. My incubator is dry, the tubs are moist. They get a pinhole in each side. Like that seems to be the correct amount of airflow. With the bulls, I couldn't find any like food service containers that were that big. So they're actually they're the iris gasket tubs.
Yeah.
They make a 7-quart, and it's like and it's tall too. So you can take that like giant, like half their clutches look like balloon animals. It's just like
I know exactly
like a giant everlasting gobstopper. In my experience, they're not eggs you really want to pull apart. Like it's just like if you're just like a freak and you need to see like a tray of eggs, like they're a tray of cookies or something, like ball python people or whatever. I think maybe ball python eggs are more forgiving with that stuff too. But these like you'll just rip them. So I plan them real good, and because it's like a thicker box and it's bigger, instead of a pinhole, it's 2 16th of an inch drill holes, like just a very small drill bit, just 2 in each side. That seems to work pretty good.
Cool.
And I'll do like 79 to 81 or somewhere in there.
Cool. All right. So now we've covered husbandry, breeding. Let's get to the morphs.
Let's see some colors.
So Max,
I want to disclaim something. It's like I know the morphs I'm working with. I know some stuff about some of them, but I don't. If there's like new ones people are arguing about whether they're real or what they are, I'm not brushed up on any of that. I know that bulls have like 7 or 8 morphs, and they're all cool. Like none of them are like bogus, where like it makes the snake not look good. Yeah. And that's why they're so fun to work with.
I love bull snake morphs. This is a species where I like the morphs as much as I like the localities. Like, I am a sucker for yellow snakes. I have learned that.
They're like the best albino too, because they have so much black on them. Whenever you like I know Metazotics had those like red albinos. Like you put that on the table, you're like, well, damn, that one looks awesome. Yeah. Like no one dislikes those.
Okay,
right, so we got
hypos. There's multiple lines.
2. Okay, 3 maybe 4.
Yes.
There's 2 that I work with. Trumbauer hypo and Stillwater hypo.
Sure.
This is a Trumbauer hypo. They vary a lot. Boy, do they. This one I feel like has a little more red and purpley kind of influence. I don't think she's like from a red lineage. I just think that when they're more on the red spectrum, you get more of this like kind of maroon, dark stuff, like where seeing the neck, where the neck's almost like kind of purpley. Very bright yellow, very bright yellow. Something that is somewhat reliable with them is that like unibrow they have over their eye that makes them look really angry. Sometimes is reduced or missing with Trumbauer hypo. It's not a dead giveaway, but I find that helpful when trying to ID them. Some of them look pretty normal when they hatch out too. So you could have some in a clutch and it's not going to like hit you in the face until they shed out a few times. But some of them will look, and also that's similar with reds too. Like I've had snakes that turned pretty red, but they look pretty normal as babies. But then you have some that they hatch out red, and then you're like, okay, well, this would probably be a little bit more extreme than what I'm used to. But I've heard, anecdotally, some people be like, some of these normal looking bull snakes, I know that they'll know they have the correct red lineage in them, and then when they just take 2 years to get there, and then when they're 2 years old, they look like insane.
Sure. Gotcha. Cool. Okay. Next one will be the Stillwater hypo.
So this is one of my his yearling year and a halflings. He's the adult I have is in shed, so I couldn't take a pic. More black in the neck and tail. More contrast in that way. It's like less of a hypomelanistic because you can see there's like melanin on them. You can see like the unibrow across the head still. They seem like they're like orangier. They have like these really light, like kind of brown tones. I don't know the right. There's probably a bunch of other colors that I don't know the words for.
This one seems much more muted. Is probably a way I would describe it compared to Trumbauer. So for those who can't see this and are listening, the Stillwater does look, you can definitely tell that it's a hypo in comparison to a normal. But to Scott's point, you are seeing, black outlining around the different blotches. The tail area starts to get darker as well. Still on a very pretty yellow background. Yeah. But when compared in Max, if you can jump back to the Trumbauer for me. When comparing that to the Trumbauer the browns have more of an orange, or we could even say a red hue somewhere in there that pops.
The yellow is so much more bright.
Yeah, the yellow seems to have more of a highlighter-esque, it's much more vivid. So it's kind of it's funny because if I was looking at these two, another way for me to just paint this picture for you, the Stillwater looks like if I was to stumble across a hypo in the wild, that's more what I would expect, where the Trumbauer looks like, holy crap, what else is in there? It had, and I'm not playing down the Stillwater, just it looks more like it is a combo because of how vivid these colors are compared to it being a single gene, on there. And I'm assuming these two are not compatible, correct?
Oh, yes, they are not compatible. It is two different strains. And as far as like which one's better or whatever, the reason I have both hypos and both Xanthics is because I think they both look cool, and I can't decide which one I like more. They're different, and I'm like, I like playing with kind of extremes or opposites too. Like I like what it looks like on one end of the spectrum, and I like what it looks like on the other end. Or I like type 1 for what's nice about it, and I like type 2. One thing I've noticed is that it seems that when you add a lot of like actual red to these hypos, the clear winner is the Stillwater hypo, or what they call the flame bulls. Like a red Stillwater hypo, I don't have a picture of one. They are just really impressive. But if you take I have apparently a red Trumbauer that I got years ago. I haven't like done enough breedings and ways to. I've only bred it to another hypo red Trumbauer so far, but it looks like the red actually unhypos the hypo. Like it actually makes it look it's the opposite of a synergy. It normalizes both that the polygenic part and the recessive thing, makes it almost look like more of a normal like kind of reddish snake. So that is one huge difference. as far as like what you can mix with it. But I like them equally.
Cool.
Right on. What else we got?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we got Stillwater Hypo or Miami Azanthic Ghost. And Miami is a city in Texas. Is that right or wrong?
It's Miami County.
Or Miami County.
It's like, but it's somewhere in the Midwest. I could be like Kansas. What is it, like
I'll look it up
or something? Yeah, like it's some state in the Midwest. The Miami Xanthics are way more of like a black and white style of Xanthic, way more contrasty. The Stillwater Hypo cleans it up. You can see it cleans it up so much to where you have this like really high contrast black and white snake. The bull snakes are so cool because they do this optical illusion with their pattern where it's darker at the tail, darker at the head, and this one's not doing it exactly in the picture, but they position themselves in a way that's like, all the time. People, like yesterday in the show, people were like, I thought there were two snakes in this deli cup because there's all this dark patterning and all this light stuff. So if you want to go to the next one, I have the other type of ghost, and you'll see that they start to like look pretty different. Oh, that's a different ghost. My bad.
Well, real quick,
yep.
Go back for me, Max.
Yeah, go back. Sorry.
So the Stillwater Hypo, what that would look like to me for someone who's not seeing this, it's very northern pine.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah,
I call him my poor man's northern pine.
Yeah.
I just stick to bulls, and I don't want to get into pine snakes, so I can make some bulls that sort of look like them.
Yeah, if I was walking past a table and just glanced down, if it wasn't labeled, my first thought would be this is a northern pine. Now, it's not. I think a northern pine's saddles and blotches are a little more distinct in their color.
Yes.
At least the ones I've got here, they feel like they're a little bit more bold, but
kind of bigger, like the saddles.
Yeah, and the coloration's a little deeper, I think. But that's what I would say is this. It looks like just a slightly, I don't want to say washed, but slightly lighter northern pine snake. If I was going to describe it to some.
And they're cool, and people really like them. I made a whole clutch of just these. Like I did a double visual, and that was the one thing where it's just like you put one on the table, it's gone. You put one on Morph Market, it's gone.
Nice.
Until you only got one left, and you're like, well, I might as well keep one because one will make extras one year.
Yeah, very cool.
And it's interesting because I didn't do that pairing this year. I paired a patternless to it because actually, as you see in the next pick, is a patternless. Patternless ghost. It's Balam Xanthic and Trumbauer Hypo. So I'm just curious, like I made triple hets for that female in the last picture. So it's het patternless, het the other ghost, het Stillwater and het Miami. And I'm wondering would that make more of a gray, like dark gray snake than a light snake? Would it be a bright white snake? Would it look more like a leucistic? I don't really know because I've seen some of these configurations of morphs, and it seems like some of the types kind of get bred together a lot of the time, but they don't like off. So to make an example is like I've never seen. They're out there, but I've never seen like you may have a Balam Xanthic Trumbauer ghost. But I've never seen like a Balam Xanthic Stillwater ghost. I've never seen like a Miami Xanthic Trumbauer, but gotcha. That's just where it gets complicated with having two strains, because like not only can you make two different, you could really make like 4 different types of ghosts if you consider that hypo and Xanthic being ghost. So it's weird. There's like not a lot of morphs, but I still feel like at least personally a lot more ground to like explore. And I'm just starting because I'm done quarantine and stuff, man. I haven't bought a bull snake in like 5 years. I got like the 15 I really wanted, and now all I need is time.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to make like big hit projects for stuff I personally haven't seen before, just because I'm curious.
If you want to plead the fifth on this, you got to love that I'm starting that way. Do it. The Hanum hypos. What are your thoughts on those?
And they look amazing, but I have no idea what they are.
Yes,
that's what I meant. Like, I don't know anything about the things people argue about. I'm not that like. If I were just getting in bull snakes, I would have been sitting on like Facebook a lot more and king snake and stuff, like absorbing all these conversations. But I got my snakes and I'm doing my thing, and there is a point where I don't think it's exactly a good thing, but like once you kind of get settled in your own thing, you stop paying attention to what other people are doing, and not like there's with a lot of that stuff. There's a good balance, right? Like there are stuff I'm curious about, but you have to sift through all the other stuff, and some of that just I can't really get on the internet without like just feeling constantly emotionally provoked by everybody on it, and it's not very time efficient, because although I don't really participate in this, even just like having to see some people argue about something on a Facebook group is just enough to be like, God, why am I thinking about this instead of like what I actually should be doing, which is like doing my snake thing.
For those listening, and if you're into this, you're watching on YouTube, you think the morphs are cool. I think they're thought-provoking. I'll throw that out there. But a Hanum hypo is this strain of bull snake where they basically turn some variant of purple, steely, bluey gray to blue on their back, light pewter blue, and they're crazy looking. But there's the debate and discussion right now as to what exactly they are. Are they a hypo? Are they not a hypo? Are they their own thing? Are they not a thing? Are they even a thing? I've heard that being discussed. So, yeah.
My totally ignorant guess is like, well, what does a Trumbauer and Stillwater double recessive look like?
Yep.
Like, is that just what it is? Just a double hypo? I mean, because it's doing different things to the snake, so I would assume that's a thing that synergizes. But that's, I mean, I feel like someone had proven that, would have proven that already. That's just my, like, first thought. I think they're super cool. That, like, those and the Kankakee would really be, like, the two things I don't have that would be fun to have.
Yeah. There's a very small picture. Thumbnail didn't translate well, but you can kind of see the steely blue for the Hanum hypo there. So, yeah.
That's pretty neat.
Still really yellow. Yeah, like bright yellow, but all the saddle material is. Yeah, there's that weird thing the bull snake pigments do, and that's something that's really similar to what happens with the flame bulls. So the black part of the saddles, must be this underlying like purple hues that are there when more of the melanin is stripped away. That's like underneath, like that's what it looks like, and it's awesome. Oh, it's great. Yeah. That looks so sweet.
Well, we're going to have you back on to do hogs.
Okay.
Which is funny because that's your bread and butter. So,
This was fun, though. I enjoyed it.
The bulls are a reprieve, though. So that's it's a good balance because, you hatch out a ton of these babies where like only 50% are expected to eat off the bat. And it's like fishing with a pair of tweezers. Like, how can I trick you into like, smack you in the face or like rub it on your side of your cheek or, do all this stuff. While you're like trying not to like, like breathe on them or whatever, like just to the point where I'm like peeking my eyes like over a tub, like, please just take it. And then the bull snakes are like 12 eggs, 12 babies, 12 fuzzies, end of story. It's so, and I'll put them on the table after like 2 meals, because on one end, like you could put 30 new snakes on a table. It doesn't mean any of them are going to sell, So, but after 2 meals, I can put a bunch on the table, be like, it's a bull snake. Like, if that thing doesn't eat for you, I'll do whatever it takes to make it right. But I'm almost positive it will.
Yes.
And then, the hog knows you're not more concerned. You're like, some can be convincing after 5 meals, but everyone feels better when it's 10 meals.
Yeah.
So
that was one of the
good balance.
2 more questions, and one was like, what the hell is it like keeping these 2 snakes, which are similar but very different? And that's exactly what I would say it is.
I think they go together. They're like totally weird, super distant cousins. Because at least you have. So would that be convergent evolution, where they have the same pattern?
Yeah, they have some convergent. The pattern's the same. The scalation's the same. Like
scales.
And that's all adaptations for living in sand and digging. So you're absolutely they definitely have some convergence there. It's just the way they do the diggings where it's different, because like hogs have the rostral scale, so they actually dig. And the bulls are kind of fun because they're like, oh, gophers, cool. I'm going to eat your ass. Now your burrow is mine. That's basically the way that they dig. But they have the rostral scale to move the dirt once the rodent has made the burrow they steal. So
yeah, and that's my little spiel I do on tables, because a lot of people, they see both and they think the bull snakes are just bigger hognose. When we're talking people that just are they're either new or they're kind of just there to look at stuff. And I'm like, well, the hognose, they have that nose because they're digging up like turtle eggs and other snake eggs and toads and all this other stuff. They dig the dirt, and then I'm like, well, the bull snakes just use other people's holes. They're just like, what's this hole? I'm gonna dive in here and try to kill and eat everything in it.
Yeah,
there you go. That's their personalities couldn't be different, because while a hognose will mill about and dig and search for food, like the bull snake's like the ultimate tunnel rat, active hunter. That's why their personalities are so cool, because they're going to war when they eat.
They are going to
dive in this hole and see what's going in here. It's like I guess similar to indigo snakes I've heard. They don't really constrict a lot. They're just like, I ain't got room for that. I'm pinning you up against the wall and just eating you. Then I'm going to eat this nest of baby whatevers.
Absolutely insanely awesome personalities. They're in those vivs where I can see them, and they're usually in some kind of cover I've given them. And when I'm down in the basement the garage where they're at, after I've been in there for about 8-10 minutes, I'm like getting the hose ready. I'm putting the garage door up. I'm getting ready to do the feed. I turn around and they're just out looking like, all right, monkey, food monkey, rat now. And it's just,
you can see
cool.
That's a snake. You can see them thinking.
Yes, they're definitely. I love them.
Hognose are absolutely mindless.
Yes,
they can't even find their water. Like half the time when you do a freshwater thing, you dunk their head just to like get a gauge on how long it's been since they forgot water existed. And then the bull snakes, like you put water in and their like little head perks up and they use their little tongue and go like, oh, fresh water, time to drink. And they go over and drink it. And I'm like, that's, it's, way more perceptive, way more, outgoing in that way. While also being like just very, I guess, high strung when it comes to sudden movements.
Yes.
And things they don't like. Yeah.
So, all right. Final question. I'm very curious to get this from you, since you're in it so much, and you're also kind of focused with the two species here.
I'm just trying not to screw up. That's why.
There you go.
It's like I feel like I've done a pretty good job so far. I want to just keep being steady, successful. Yeah.
Yep. So, herpetoculture, where do you see it going? You're literally eating, breathing, sleeping. You go to the shows. You're marketing these things. You like the trajectory? Are we optimistic? Are we not optimistic?
I'll say in a very broad way, and I mean, like speaking of reptiles going mainstream, like the very definition of the word mainstream, like it's just something almost everyone knows about or is involved with in popular culture. I don't think reptiles being mainstream is good for them. I don't think this is a thing that everyone has to be involved with. I don't think it's a thing that like is going to benefit from an enormous amount of growth. I think there's a certain amount. The internet's always been really helpful. I mean, I complain about like internet people, but at the same time, like I grew up, middle school is the first time I had the internet, and like that's where I learned about snakes. So it's a double-edged sword. But I think when you're trying to pull everyone in, you're going to have a way lower like quality potential keeper to not good keeper ratio. I think if you want to get everyone into it, you're going to have more people in it that are bad for it or just shouldn't be in it. And I'm not like trying to be a hater or anything or be like, oh man, this was like cooler when like nobody liked it. But it kind of like there's more space for people to be themselves and do their own thing when it's not so competitive because it's more popular.
That's fair.
I think. And I think I've said this like a bunch of times today, but it comes down to there is I think there is a reasonable balance for a lot of these things. And I think if we are going to bring people into them, I think we need more effective ways to fast track some of these concepts about herpetoculture that should be almost undebatable.
Yes.
Like, how the hell do hot rocks still exist?
Yeah.
How do they even exist?
Right.
How did someone? How is there still a guy right now filling out an order form to a factory in China? Oh yeah, hot rocks, snake. Yeah, like how?
Yeah, it's funny you say that. We have a local pet store that I was going into when I was in high school. Okay, and I laughed because they have one of those old TFH book racks that spins, where they would put in like the picture books for ball pythons, boas, blue tongue skate.
Yeah.
Well, there's a book in there that I almost buy it every time I walk in there for purely nostalgic purposes and to give the book purpose. It's this guide to red-eyed tree frogs and leaf frogs. I don't have a red-eyed tree frog or leaf frog, but I remember when that book came out and I bought it at the All Ohio Reptile Show because at that time I had red-eyed tree frogs. And the only reason why I know that this is the same book from when I was in college sitting in that rack is that I bought the book over in Columbus, came back to West Liberty, went down to the pet store. It's, of course, called Mom and Dad's Pet Store, by the way, because every city has a Mom and Dad's Pet Store. It was like, damn it, they got the damn book that I just bought, and it's cheaper. But I was walking around, saw the book, and I saw a hot rock. This was like a year ago. And I was like, oh, my God, what a legacy. A hot rock. Wow. And then that same week, I was at one of the big box stores with my son, and we were just killing time. And there was a freaking hot rock. And I was like, oh, my God, that wasn't like
it wasn't a joke.
Of the 90s. They're still selling these things.
Yeah.
Guess what you will not find at Metazotics?
Yeah. Hot rock.
Not a single freaking hot rock in the building. Okay. Nowhere.
I think if we found a hot rock, I'm gonna plant one in your store and take a picture and post it on. It's like these guys are full of it. They're lying.
I'm gonna treat it like a golden ticket from Charlie's Chocolate Factory.
Yeah, so it's like it's discouraging when things so basic are still up for debate. Yeah. And on finer points too, like I want to get everyone to think like a snake if they want to keep snakes, because that seems like the best route to like understanding what they want instead of what you want. Yeah. And a lot of these new people, I mean, the bull snake, it's funny because bull snakes, they're like cute, like they're popular because people think they're cute, but I keep getting asked, they want a nice hog nose or a nice bull snake. And I'm like, well, they've kind of spent millions of years perfecting this defensive behavior. They're not going to completely lose it just because some dude bred it in a tub for 4 generations. You know, it's like 20 years, not 20 million or whatever. 10, I don't know how many million it takes to evolve. So I think in general, if you can get people to, what does it feel like to be a tiny, scared animal that is reclusive and gets eaten by birds of prey, and what would that animal want to be happy? And if you can start getting people thinking along that, I think that's a really good step, because on the internet newbie end, you have this projected idea of what something is going to be like before you participate in it. I used to skateboard when I was a kid. I remember exactly how I felt about skateboarding, like saving up for a board and what it was going to be like when I did it. And the experience once I finally got one was like so completely different, but not bad. It was just the difference of having an experience versus your expectation of an experience. And I think what a lot of people want is they want something that's between a stuffed animal they can cuddle with and a cool piece of furniture. You know, and they want it to be too many things. They want to see like a hognose snake that's famous for burrowing to, like, I don't know, strike a pose and hang out like on a basking rock. They want it to be a bearded dragon. You know, bearded dragon, great display animal. You look across, oh, there's my boy right there, just like strutting, you know, like showing off his huge chest, looking awesome, letting everybody know he's there. You know, and then they want something that's like not gonna hiss or bite him or anything like that. And that's, you know, I got to tell them that I'll try my best, but it's the hardest thing to guarantee. You know, I can guarantee they're like healthy, disease-free, eating, genetically sound or what I say they are. But and I get into this conversation all the time with people because like some people are just maybe terrible with reptiles or animals. You know, it's like maybe no snake will like you because you just don't have an innate ability. And other people, I give them an evil snake and they're like, oh, he's my favorite snake. He's super chill. You know, because I understand animal body language just more innately or whatever. So it's really hard to, as a person selling stuff, the fastest way to sell something is to tell somebody it's exactly what, not just exactly what they want, but what they think it's going to be like. And the more often when you tell them the truth, you're actually talking that sale, you know, but as long as I get some and I'm not stuck with all my babies at the end of the year, you know, it's worth not having a bunch of people that have something they weren't prepared for just because you made them feel good about it.
Cool. All right, sir. Well, this was a good one. We will definitely have you back on to do.
Oh, well, I'm glad you guys. I didn't know what I was going to talk about, and I just want to say, hey, let me say something. I've been talking this whole time, but I'm truly, I don't know, honored to be on here because I think this is the best podcast. This is the most respectable podcast. It's a great combination of experience and it's educational. It's coming from people who are, literally educated. I would say on an academic level, like actually are authorities on something, on some stuff, and that is infinitely more useful in the long run than just having the same whatever breeders on where you talk about. I'm trying to say something without putting down other podcasts. Not that they're particularly bad, but this just has innate value.
Thank you.
It's something you can listen to these 10 years from now and be like, mine it for information because you have very educated, experienced people having other educated, experienced people on, which also makes me want to know, like, why the hell I'm on here. Like, I feel like I'm just trying to do my best, but I'm the first to be like, I'm not. If anyone calls me like an expert or authority on something, I'm going to like beg them not to call me that because that's. Well, I could say
that the bull snakes, that I've gotten from you were like top notch, and I got some others from other people, and they were not top notch. So we promote quality. We promote people that carry each other.
I appreciate it.
And I look at it as you don't have to know everything to be able to provide something. And that's what it is it's like, there may be people out there who've been breeding bull snakes for years and years more than what you have. It doesn't mean that you haven't figured out something or have something to share with the public that the others either haven't figured out or haven't thought to share. So that's why, the more people we can talk to about the same topics, the more we learn about those topics, and so that's, I think that even it's funny because
like
sometimes
my tall water cup. I want to see people using
bingo.
Deep water cups. I think
cool. And it's funny because I've used the same, I've not used the tall water cups. I've always used like I want to say what, 16 ounce is
16, okay.
The 16 ounce inside those little couplings is what those are, PVC
if you
couplings.
Have the tub height,
and boom.
It helps.
Yep. Yeah. So I never used the tall ones, but then that's what I mean. Would have never even thought to use a taller one. So it's little stuff like that somebody could be doing this for a month and stumble across a good idea.
Yeah.
And so that's what's just beautiful about
and it
what
saves
we do.
them so much heartache or trouble or whatever, especially if it's just about good like wise like biosecurity practices and stuff. You meet the right person early enough along, they can prevent you from making too many dumb mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to learn everything the hard way.
No, you don't.
Right.
I learned that as I've gotten older. I learned everything the hard way when I was younger, and then I would realize like I don't have to do that. Like I can learn from other people's mistakes. And if you talk to anyone that's had like mites or other diseases in their collections, they make a very convincing argument that that's something you never want to have. Like once you tell the depths that they've gone into to get rid of them, the cost of money, the cost of it, and the time and everything. And this is a hobby where like ounce of prevention beats a pound of cure. Half the time there isn't even a cure. So stay paranoid, guys.
There you go. So on that note, how do people get a hold of you if they're interested in your animals? Which I highly recommend on the bull snake and hognose snake front.
I have most of what's left on market right now. You can hit me up on Instagram too. That's probably it, or email me or whatever.
So,
and I do
BOSSHAWGS, right?
H8 spelled the dumb, silly way, just to keep it fun. And it creates a symmetry with the logo.
Oh, it does.
Yeah,
I just now noticed it.
Yeah. So I've got a couple things going for it.
Very cool. Very, very cool. Well, thanks for coming on, Scott. We will certainly have you on again. Are you going to Colubrid Fest, or can you not?
Dude, yes.
Hell
Are
yeah.
you kidding me?
Okay.
Are you kidding me? That like recharged me for the whole year because everyone there is like just so interesting, knowledgeable. There's no one there you have to teach how to keep a snake.
Mm-hmm.
And to have one show a year where you can do that is like so fun. There's nothing wrong. It's a big part of teaching people how to do this in this business, but it's not fun when that's the only people you have to interact with.
Yeah.
You know, so you need more variety of keepers and stuff to kind of fill your cup, you know. And Colubrid Fest is awesome. I can't wait. I'm bringing my girlfriend. Dan and Stacy are coming.
Yeah.
We're bringing a whole crew. I think the guy you got, I hope Gil's coming. He's the guy you got the bull snake from at auction.
Well, one of my males that bred this year was that bull snake.
Awesome. Yeah. So I'm trying to bring a gang. We're gonna
Perfect.
have a blast.
Okay. All right, Clint. Where do they find you?
On Facebook, Clint Bartley. Metazotics as well on Facebook. MetazoticsLLC on Instagram. You can always check out what we have available at Metazotics.com. And of course, you can use CC Radio to save yourself 5% off any purchase.
All righty. And then me, Zac Loughman at Facebook, Dr. Crawdad on Instagram. Interested in going to college, going to get your graduate degree, doing herpetoculture. We are one of the very few schools you can do that. Graduate school wise, I sent a grad student to the biology of pit vipers meeting while I was at the bug meeting. Bjorn, who went to IHS, if you went to IHS, and he came back and was basically like, yeah, it was around pretty much several of the big snake labs. Nobody's doing what we're doing. So that made me feel pretty good that we got herpetoculture covered in an academic light, which is pretty sweet, but we're also doing the field stuff. So if that tickles your fancy, you want to get a graduate degree, hit me up. And you can do that through social media as well. So this has been a fun one. I enjoyed this one thoroughly. So be it evening, afternoon, morning, or night, whatever time of day it is, have a good one. Later.